let's go.
I will.
What do you want to know?
All right, Alec, what's the current state of what's going on with the...
What's in your
I'm
pocket?
not allowed to make any comments because it's an ongoing investigation. I've been ordered by the sheriff's department in Santa Fe. I can't answer any questions.
Scary when he puts his hand in his pocket. I get scared. He's going to pull out a gun.
It's an active investigation.
It's got a quick draw.
Died. She was my friend.
I'm not going to answer any questions about the investigation. This video is like almost 4 minutes long.
She was my friend. The day I arrived in Santa Fe to start shooting, I took her to dinner with Joel, the director. We were a very, very,
Bought her last meal.
very, very,
Excuse me.
well-oiled
Hang on.
crew.
Let's watch that again.
Excuse me.
I think this is his wife.
We were a very, very, excuse me. We were a very, very
What the hell is she doing?
well-oiled crew shooting a film together, and then this horrible event happened. Now, I've been told
She just couldn't stand it. She wasn't in the
don't
shot.
make any comments about the ongoing investigation, and I can't. That's it.
And you met
What
with,
are the
sorry,
What are the questions that you have other than that?
you met with the
Stand back. I got a phone.
the moment, but you met with her family.
An iPhone 10.
Yes.
Her
I
name
met
is
with her
Helena. If you're spending this much time waiting for us, you should
don't
know
know
her
her
name.
name?
Her name is Helena.
Helena Hutchins. I met with her husband Matthew.
They get pissed off because they forgot her name. Yeah, what'd they do? Shoot her?
Yeah.
And how did that meeting go?
Is it the same truck?
They're mortified.
Just going back and
Guys, you know
forth,
what?
doing a donut, turn
Do me a
around.
favor. I'm gonna answer the question.
Well, I appreciate it. You're probably very upset.
Down girl.
The guy is overwhelmed with you.
Yeah.
This is something that
Wait, was that? I guess that was kind of an alpha move, right? Except why is she doing that in the first place? It's kind of weird, right?
Is that his girlfriend?
That's his wife. I'm pretty sure.
No,
Yeah, it
he's
is. We looked
married.
it up. Yeah,
If you're that rich and famous, why would you be married?
It's called a prenup.
dude. Plus, when you're when you're in that kind of level of the elite, like your wives at that point know you're sleeping around, and it's just they don't do anything about it.
I took her to dinner, then I fucked her, then I shot her.
I mean, I was dating her. I mean,
there are incidental accidents on film sets from time to time, but nothing like this. This is a 1 in a trillion episode.
it's a tragedy. I was just minding my own business.
He is in shock. He has a 9-year-old son.
Yeah, that's his
We
wife.
are, in constant contact with him because we're very worried about his family and his kid. And as I said, we're eagerly awaiting for the sheriff's department to tell us what their investigation has yielded. What else do you have?
Yeah, I bet.
Would you ever work on another film set that involves firearms of that nature?
I couldn't answer that question. I really don't have any. I have no sense of it at all. I do know that an ongoing effort to limit the use of firearms on film sets is something I'm extremely interested in. I don't know where you, but remember,
I bet.
it's something that I think is important, and that is how many bullets have been fired in films and TV shows in the last 75 years. This is America.
Millions.
How many bullets have gone off in movies? Firearms on film sets is something I'm.
He wants to ban
Just one.
guns limited
Just one.
to certain people
Yours.
ever.
You had 1 in a trillion, whatever. Yeah.
No, he's including blanks in that number. He wants to ban guns in America. Period.
Yeah.
Really interested in. I don't know where you, but remember something that I think is important, and that is how many bullets have been fired in films and TV shows in the last 75 years. This is America.
Millions.
How many bullets have gone off in movies and on TV sets? Billions.
Yeah, and they didn't manage to shoot anybody, so you just are cosmically lucky here.
So what has to happen now is we have to realize that when it does go wrong, and it's this horrible catastrophic thing, some new measures have to take place. Rubber guns, plastic guns, no real armaments.
Those rubber guns go off
That's
all
not
the
up to me to
time.
decide. It's
This is the
urgent.
time to inject my political
Urgent that
opinions.
you understand. I'm not an expert in this.
Yeah, tomorrow he's gonna have a billboard
So
saying,
whatever other
"Use
people
more rubber
decide
bullets
is the
on
best way to
sets."
go
Use
Yeah.
rubber
to
bullets
protect
on
people's safety
sets.
on film sets. I'm all in favor of, and I
Or
will
blanks.
work with
Just
them.
use blanks.
Cruise
Or
lines,
yeah,
Any further projects
Don't get
you
live
working
rounds.
on, or is everything on
No,
hold for you
that's
right now?
irrelevant to what we're talking about. Yeah, that's
Do
irrelevant.
you think production will start up again on?
No, I doubt it. Was there anything else?
Why Vermont, Alex's?
Because
That's a
we
Oh, we're
just-
not gonna get to see the movie?
That's fine. Yeah, that's fine. Anything else?
Okay.
So just do me a favor.
They
Norman.
should just they should release the movie, and then just the last scene is when that happened, and they just show that part live, and then the credits roll. I go.
He's like, no, I stopped production. I'm like, you could immortalize that person who died. Be like, they played this role so well.
Yeah.
Just like, like
pay the
No,
have to pay
like
the family
Bruce
a lot.
Lee.
I mean,
Yeah, give him a lot of like have the royalties go to the family, grieving family. That's huge.
No, to show it in the movie. I'm saying like have the last scene.
No,
be
no,
like,
no, no, not include that. Well, actually, you might. No, no.
Let's finish this up.
My kids are in the car crying.
Because you guys are following
And
them
all I
and
want
they
to do,
know.
as a courtesy to you, I came to talk to you. I'm not allowed to comment on the investigation. I talk to the cops every
You
day.
assholes asking me about
Every day to find
the
out
fact that I
who they know
shot
who you are.
someone.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm cooperating with them. Of course. So my point is that I'm just asking. We sat down as a courtesy now to talk to you. Now, please, would you just not follow us for the rest of this? Just leave us alone.
Yeah, that'll work.
We gave you everything we could
Thank
possibly
you.
That'll work.
Thank
No,
you.
the
Condolences,
paparazzi are a
thank you.
special breed, though.
Good idea, Baldwin. You talk to them
That's
once, they leave you alone, right?
Exactly.
Ooh, man, I almost ended the broadcast, dude. So it's the funny thing. I almost hit the
Great
wrong
stream,
button.
guys.
So the funny thing was like he was pissed off at them. It was almost like he was annoyed that it's like I publicly apologized. Now, why won't you people just like let me off the hook because I apologize? Like he's annoyed that they're still asking him questions about him, like an A-list actor killing somebody
Yeah.
in kind of a tragically comical kind of way.
Kind of a big deal.
Yeah. How the hell did live rounds? Why would there ever be a live bullet on? How is that even possible for him to grab a gun with a live round in it? How can that be an accident?
Negligence, incompetence.
How did it even get there? I mean, why do they even have that as a prop? Is there like a scene
No,
in
it
the
was
movie
a
where
real
someone finds a
gun.
real bullet
It's-
or something?
It's supposed to shoot blanks, right?
Yeah, it's a real
that's
gun.
supposed to
It's
shoot
supposed to-
blanks.
It's supposed to be loaded with blanks, but the
Someone
armor
took it to the range the day before and didn't unload it, and it was supposed to get checked by the master of the props, but it
Oh.
didn't.
And there's also an armorer who's responsible for all the real guns on
armorer.
set, who apparently was a 24-year-old girl. So
Yeah, I
How
think
mu-
she was related to somebody. That's how she got the job.
yeah,
How
her
did-
dad
how
was
did-
like a career armorer, and she got the gig.
So you think she would be good at it, but it sounds like she might have been. I mean, to be fair, maybe she was putting her too much for just herself.
I guess I don't know how that.
Possibly.
So someone went to go shooting, and they're like, "Oh, my friends are shooting, and I don't have a gun. Here, I'll just use this from work, and I'll just take the prop gun from work and use that. That'll be fun."
No, I just heard it hasn't been confirmed, but that some people would
Okay.
take the gun because they wanted to shoot it. It's California; you can't get a gun anyway. Just
Wow.
get a chance to take it to the range.
So we've been calling them prop guns this whole time, but they're real guns.
Some of them,
They're
some
always
of them
real
are
gun-
meant
yeah.
to actually blow up if you try to shoot an actual bullet in it.
Huh.
Hmm.
I don't know. I guess I thought that prop guns meant they make it not really shoot live rounds on purpose. That's why we call it a prop gun.
Yeah, that's just a gun with blanks in it.
Just a gun with blanks. Right. Okay.
Yeah,
Usually.
I think there are certain situations where they have to modify the gun to where it wouldn't function like a real gun, because in order to get it to cycle a certain way with blanks, you need to
Huh.
like modify it because there's no back pressure from the bullet. But for the most part, it's just guns with blanks in them.
Yeah.
It's-
Plus, having actors fake gun kick it looks bad.
Well, Baldwin is so the family of the person he shot, the two people he shot, they're going to be very rich soon because they're
Yeah.
Baldwin. They're going to sue his ass, and that's going to be it. Going to control that. So, but let's talk like criminal charges. What do you think's going to happen?
So definitely negligence all around. Someone's gonna get charged with manslaughter or homicide.
Manslaughter, obviously.
I-
If there is
I
a
doubt
criminal,
that. I doubt that.
you
Really?
don't think anyone's going to
I think negligence, yes. I don't think someone's going to get manslaughter. I think Alec Baldwin wouldn't get it.
What's the legal terminology for like negligent murder? Or yeah,
But I think
Manslaughter.
Manslaughter follows that. Like,
Yeah.
so yeah, that's what we're talking about. I don't know if Alec's gonna get it, but whoever's responsible for making sure that gun isn't loaded with real bullets falls on them.
Yeah,
isn't there a criminal negligence?
yeah, but it probably is when somebody like it doesn't result in someone dying. I think when it results in someone dying, then it crosses into manslaughter.
Also, the woman in the video that he kept backhanding, that was his wife, Hilaria Baldwin.
He was backhanding. Yeah, me and Nick already did a little research on her. I thought she was a Latina, but it turns out she might not be. She might have been faking
No, she's
that.
just a yoga instructor.
What's this?
This is
Oh,
an
you're looking
upgrade.
her up.
This is his old wife.
Oh, I got you.
Like they got the side by side.
44 out the door.
40.
Wow.
All right. Well, so today we are going to be talking about two things: the election and Rittenhouse trial update. Because we actually we've had day one of the trial where they talked to 3 witnesses and they
One
had
of them we
opening
couldn't
statements.
see.
Yeah, one of the second one
Yeah.
was
A
we weren't allowed to see
mystery.
that for some reason. Because probably because they made a deal for, like, okay, I'll testify, but it has to be like secret. Like I
No,
don't
it
want
was a
my
Fed.
identity. You think so?
No, I know so.
Ooh.
How do you know that?
Because it's all over Twitter.
Because Twitter says so.
Or
Well, they
Jack-
did say they were going to pull in federal evidence, but
Huh? National security. For national security, we
Okay.
can't.
I'll
I mean, the
I'm
jurors
gonna-
have to
I'm gonna-
see them.
I'm gonna pull up the thread because like
Okay.
it was getting leaked out of the courtroom. What was
Well, while
going
you do
on.
that, so
Oh.
first, do you want to talk about the election first? And tell us
Absolutely.
what's
So
going on
la-
there.
Last week, we were touching on the debacle of the Loudoun County School Board and how they've completely screwed up this sexual assault or rape that happened on their in their school by a fellow student who happens to be a trans student, while also trying to pass through trans bathroom laws
We talked
and
about this,
pissing
yeah.
off. Yeah,
Look at the
This
last
all-
episode if you want to know what we're talking
yeah,
about.
it's all tied together because this has swayed the tides of public opinion in Virginia so much that as of like an hour ago, the governorship was called for the Republican Glenn Youngkin for Virginia. And all the Republicans are, doing their victory rap right now, saying, "Hurrah! This is all because of the fucking school board shit." And for the most part, it seems like they're right. Like, what else could you contribute that to?
I'd say the 2A rally was pretty big. I mean, the fact that the during the last election cycle, people were surprised. People didn't think Virginia could actually flip. They were like,
Yeah.
what, Virginia is they're bound to be 2A. Then they have someone who's very anti 2A, very in bed with the Moms Demand Action and all the Bloomberg funded organizations that that they decided to rally outside the Capitol, and he's passed all those laws anyway.
Mhm.
So
But I don't think the Second Amendment's going to drive droves of voters to flip from blue to red like this. I think this is really coming down to just the school board and how they've handled the trans issue, the CRT issue, how they just lied about what was going on with the parents in Loudoun County, the whole debacle of trying to label the parents as domestic terrorists. Like, this has really pissed off a lot of people in the middle. That can
Yeah.
actually be swayed to
Okay.
vote for
People
the other
with
side.
kids.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot more people with kids than with guns.
Yeah.
true. One day we'll fix that. But
We got to give all the kids guns. I know.
As long as they don't cross state lines with it.
or cross state lines to acquire them.
Yeah.
Okay, so what do you think? How's this going to help them? Is this new guy going to clean up the school board or something?
Who knows?
I
But
thought we're not going to even touch the school
Oh,
board.
here's how we're going to
Yeah.
fix it. Here's how we're going to fix it. We're going to get a Republican in there, and then everything will be fine.
Yeah, and then in 4 years we'll just vote back in the blue.
Instead of getting on the school board, or I don't know what else you would do, homeschool, get your kids out of that institution.
Yeah, it's very reactionary. I don't know if they're actually going to solve anything, but very interesting result.
I've been completely under a rock with this last election. It's been great.
Yeah, I'm surprised that. Well, the night's still young. They might they might have Santa Claus come up with all the mail-in ballots in the middle of the night, and the elections will
it's,
flip in the morning.
People ask me if I voted today, and I'm like, what?
Oh.
What
Your
election?
duty to go vote. Yeah, my calendar told me it was election day. I'm like, well, for what?
It's
There
just
was something about Prop A
Texas,
downtown, and I'm
it's
like,
all
what?
just
What's that?
like it's just local proposition or state propositions, and then local like school boards is what it was in here, my county. So
The stuff that people are telling me that is the more important than national elections. I guess I can't call these bullshit. I'm still going to call them bullshit.
I
Probably.
mean,
I don't
I
know
mean,
about
in
it, so it
some
can't be
ways.
important.
Like one
I
example,
didn't know about it either. I should have
one example
paid more
was like,
attention.
do you want to give your local county or the state the ability to raise bonds to improve infrastructure in impoverished areas?
No.
Yeah, no. Well, I don't want to give it the money for anything.
Yeah, when I go, like the few times that I actually did go vote in like small elections, you know, it's really easy to get like a sheet of paper that explains like here's one paragraph each about what each of these voting things are. I'm like, okay, perfect. I can just sit down real quick, and it doesn't take me a long time because anytime it says approve money for, I just don't read the rest, and I just go no. Like,
You know what
And-
was interesting though? When I went to vote, all new voting machines. Just like, oh,
Interesting.
they just happened to replace them since the last election.
Made in China. Yeah. Well, I'm sure they changed the name of the company and they changed the exterior of the voting machine. But,
Did y'all actually vote last go round in Texas?
wait, on the election?
Yeah.
During-
The national, the
In the
president.
past year, have you voted for anything?
I'm gonna keep that information to myself.
Yes.
Okay.
Well,
So
I mean, during the last
did it have the
major
old
election
school
cycle.
little dial thing that you turn to vote?
No,
What?
What
but I know what you're
voting-
talking about.
Yeah, my
Last
voting.
time, the last time I voted, I think it was a little pen that was hooked with a wire onto the thing.
Okay.
Yeah, mine
This-
was all digital.
Mine had a digital screen, but to select things, it wasn't a touch screen. It was like a little dial that you used to rotate
I've
the
seen those.
selections.
Yeah.
And now
I mean,
my-
did you shake it and erase all your results too?
Yeah. Well, they shake it for you in the back.
Oh,
Oh.
okay. Of course. Only
Yeah,
if
but
you
that-
have the red ticket, right?
I thought it was interesting. The voting machine was all touch screen and had like brand new, so I wasn't sure if that was a statewide thing or just something at my local place. Sounds like it's just local, so no bombshells here.
No, they have the Etch a Sketch nationally.
All right. Well, you guys want to get into the trial now?
Yes.
All right.
All right. So
I'm gonna have to remind myself to look up these local things.
here's what we're going to talk about. I'm going to spend
It's too late.
first-
Was the last day to vote today.
I'd like to know
Who
what I'm
cares?
getting
No-
myself into.
It's not going to swing the result. I promise.
I weigh a lot.
How many votes? How many votes do you have? Yeah.
1 per 300 pounds, and then some.
Yeah. I guess if they gave us votes based on weight, then Houston would turn every election or something, right?
San Antonio.
Yeah. Okay, so I actually one of the things that
Bullshit.
everybody so I watched the pre-trial, the whole 2 hour, like while I was working at the same time. I don't have I can't
Yeah.
sit there and watch. These things are way too boring to give it 100% of your attention. But I did watch the pre-trial. So the part, like, you know, when everybody was talking about how they're not allowed to call them victims, isn't that terrible? I watched the thing that came from, and they actually argued about a few things that I thought was pretty interesting. So it was probably more interesting than day one. So I'm going to go over a few of those things.
Yeah. So day one was just jury selection. And
Oh, you're right. I'm sorry. Yeah, we're not going to cover that at all because God, I tried watching that and
I
Jesus,
was
it
surprised
boring.
how quick it went. Like they got it done in a day.
Yeah, well, but first he'd like tried to like warm up the crowd with doing like trivia or something, and
Well,
I
let's
had
be
to, like,
honest. Yeah, we
skip that.
skipped that. But then he asked, how many people have heard about, you know what? Never mind. How many people haven't heard about this? And then yeah, I imagine like 90, no one raised their hand that they didn't hear about it.
See, that's
So
a
he's
problem.
like, okay, whatever. This is,
That's a problem. How many people who have heard about it don't have an opinion? Okay, so I watched the pre-trial. One of the things that they argued about, like this is the one that everybody knows about, calling the people who are killed victims. And this was pretty interesting because apparently this is rare. Like apparently he's alone or he's among few judges in America who agree with him. Like the vast majority of trials, you can call them victims. It's allowed. But he is just one of the judges that's like, I don't want it in my court. And he gives his reasoning behind it about how it's this loaded word that's, you know, and I mean, I agree with him. It's kind of like, you know, it's the thing that the trial is supposed to be proving. Like, because if the defendant walks, then they weren't victims. If he's convicted, then they were. Like the trial is the process of finding out if they're victims or not. Like, who was the
Mhm.
victim? Was it so calling them victims? So his reasoning is, if you call it victims, it's giving the jury this negative kind of, mindset about the people, which is kind of muddying up the trial. And the prosecution had a real big problem with that. And they said that their main reason for objecting to this is that, you're going to let the defense call them rioters, looters, and, arsonists, but you're not going to let us call them victims. That's not fair. And the judge, his response was pretty much, well, if they can prove in the course of the trial that they are those things, like if you can prove this guy lit a fire in this dumpster, then you can say he's an arsonist. That's, it was proven in court.
Mhm.
And
Even the prosecution admitted, saying this is a unique trial. The fact that he shot these people is not under contention. There
Yeah.
is no whodunit. There is no looking for the murder weapon. This happened. He shot those people. He nearly shot another guy with 2 rounds.
Mhm.
They were shot.
Yeah.
2 of them died. One of them was critically injured. There is no contention in that.
yeah,
So-
just like, yeah.
So in a whodunit, it's clear that they were victims, usually. But then now it's motive and other things. So
Well, but
I can see it
victim,
both ways.
well, but victim implies that you had nothing to do with it. Like, you were just innocent, you were minding your own business, and this thing happened to you. But if they were attacking him, then they weren't victims anymore. Now he was the victim. He was the guy who was being attacked, and they got what was coming to him. That's the way I see it, anyway. I mean, I don't know. Maybe do you agree with that?
No, I would agree with that.
Okay. Well, that
Yeah,
was
this
I think that's the judge's reasoning, anyway.
And up to, I saw that propaganda video you sent me.
Yeah,
And I honestly, even earlier days,
he's talking
I
about a New
said-
York Times special about the trial, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you want to see that,
um,
go to the Gulag Twitter to see that.
Yeah, so I would recommend you see it, because New York Times, at the time of this whole Kenosha unfolding, there was one journalist with very good integrity who did all that gathering. Yes, they can claim that they did all that gathering because they did. Someone went there and gathered all that information. The difference was then there were spin articles after the fact on
Mhm.
picking up the evidence. They tracked him down so much that most of the stuff cited in court I already knew about, because they did such a good job. But then they tried to make they claimed the last 3 people,
Mhm.
skateboard man, jump kick guy, and
Jump kick guy.
Gage. Yeah, jump kick guy. They don't know who he
And
is. The
Lefty.
non-complaining witness. They all
Yeah.
call him jump kick guy because he
Well,
never came forward.
Yeah. But the defense did the right thing of rebranding him from the unidentified witness to jump kick guy.
Jump
Because
kick
now
guy.
every time we think
Yeah.
of him, you're like, oh, he was assaulting.
That's pretty
Kyle,
smart.
the jump
Yeah, that
kick.
was very Trump-esque. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
But they tried to spin it to where they were just responding to an active shooter situation.
Yeah, well, let's so what we're talking about right now, by the way, if you're listening and you're one of those people who think, how is it possible, because I hear a lot of people say this, how can this be anything other than self-defense? Like, there's no other way you can possibly look at it. I don't even understand why this is going to trial. If that's what you think about this, you need to go watch this New York Times like short about the incident where they interview people and they're giving you the narrative. If you watch that, you'll understand how the opposition to that idea, like what they're feeling and what they're thinking, and the narrative that the prosecution is going to try to package and give to the jury to give them their reasoning for convicting Rittenhouse. Go watch that, and then you'll understand. how they're gonna do
In
it.
a nutshell, though, what I got from it was the people running up to disarm Kyle, not to hurt him, because they wanted to stop the violence. They thought he was
Right.
an active shooter. But
Yeah.
like looking at it from Kyle's perspective, how do you know what their motivations are? They're trying to take my gun away from you.
And we're
Exactly.
getting ahead of ourselves, because that's gonna let's talk about that when we get to day 1 or whatever.
Okay.
Let's wrap up real quick about the pre-trial.
Oh, okay.
One of the things that they were trying to do was the prosecution wanted to bring forward evidence from a civil suit, because apparently, I can't remember his name. I just call him Lefty because his right arm got blown off. What's his real name?
Gage.
Gage.
So he's actually suing Kyle in court for like damages because of what happened.
Yeah, and he'll be a
Um,
witness as well. I'm pretty sure the prosecution's going to put him up.
Is he?
Well, yeah.
I'm
Be a witness?
pretty
Okay.
sure his suit dropped.
Yeah,
Or
yes,
was
they
it
did.
The other people's suits dropped.
No, his did. They were, and I
Okay.
don't know what the grounds were for them dropping it.
They didn't give it, and it was dropped with prejudice, so it can't be reopened.
But why? What was their reasoning?
They didn't
The
give it.
judge's reasoning. They. Oh, okay. It was it sealed or something?
The report I saw did not give a reasoning.
Trying to disarm some, trying to pretty much sneak up and
Well-
murder someone with a Glock doesn't really just help your case at all.
Well, they also included the city of Kenosha and Facebook. So good luck with that.
Oh,
Yeah,
really?
Yes, they were
Just-
suing Facebook, saying that the militiamen were use their site to organize it.
Isn't
I'm
it
like,
funny how Facebook bends over
huh.
backwards to try to censor the right wing conservative side of the political argument just to get blamed for helping them later? Like they can't.
I
Anyway.
mean, at least Facebook's actually getting blame from people this time.
Yeah, they get blamed. Yeah, if
Instead of,
now that Facebook has put themselves in a position where they took credit for the election going the way it did. Like they give themselves, like the social media companies are all patting themselves on the back, thinking that they're the reason why the election this last time went their way. The problem now is though that whenever something doesn't go right, they also get the blame for that too.
No, they'll
So-
just blame it on
so
Russian
Trump-
interference through their own media.
So
corporations.
January 6th, the January 6th thing, Facebook is getting blamed for that too.
Well, good. Finally, you know who they initially blamed, right? It was Parler.
Oh, really?
yeah.
I didn't know
Doesn't-
that.
Yeah, no, that's why Parler was sabotaged by Amazon, the servers hosting people, as well as I think it was GoDaddy that they went through. But then the servers themselves got sabotaged, and then they got taken off of iPhone and Android. But Parler, granted, it was very much a right-wing echo chamber. I will say that, but they don't have groups. They don't have the organization. They were just a Twitter, Instagram, and without groups. They could not. They did. The people who organized January 6th were on Facebook, but people then pointed to Parler just to get all the heat off of them.
Interesting. Social media wars.
Yeah. And now Parler, you cannot get it officially through iPhone or Android stores. You have to go directly through the website.
Dude, Twitter's enough for me, man. I couldn't handle more than one social media platform at a time.
I'll do Twitter for generating content like this and tweeting out, but I will not do it for the cesspool that it is.
It's taken a step back, dude. When Trump was president, it was the shit. It really was the best when he was still on it. And just the whole Twitter sphere was just mostly people reacting to shit that he said. But now that he's gone, it's basically another Facebook. It's getting there anyway.
Yeah, I got off Facebook too.
Yeah, Facebook is. I'll never go back there.
I'm there, but it's literally just a depository for kid pictures. Like the only people who follow me are grandmas and family. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's pretty lame.
Yeah, vacation pictures, kid pictures, and like
it is-
left-wing progressive grandstanding book.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's literally boomer book.
I do Facebook Lite, which is Instagram. So
Instagram's nice though, because you really don't have to see anyone's crap. You can just follow hot chicks and things that interest you.
Twitter's
Mostly
pretty
hot
good about
chicks.
that too. Now
There's
that I
hot
think
chicks
about
on
it.
the
Anyway.
There is on Instagram.
So one of the other things that was kind of interesting was they had an argument about showing evidence about the people involved and what they were doing the time before the incident. What happened was the defense wanted to present evidence that these police were praising them earlier that night and earlier that day. Like they had interactions with the police where the police were telling them things like, "We're glad you're here. You're doing a good job. We're very glad y'all are here," that kind of thing. The defense wanted to put that forward as evidence, as a way of showing that, what they were doing was approved by the cops. So it kind of like it wasn't them getting in this dangerous standoff situation. It was like they were basically following cues from law enforcement.
Yeah, it emboldened them.
Emboldened them, right? The prosecution thought that that was unfair because the prosecution wanted to bring forward evidence about some altercation that Rittenhouse got into in his past involving his sister and some other guy. Like apparently he got in a fight earlier in his life at some point, and the prosecution wanted to bring this forward as evidence as a way of smearing him and saying he's this violent guy. But the judge wasn't going to allow it because it was so far in the past that it didn't matter. And it's not relevant. And they're saying, well, that's not fair. You can't do that. So, the judge ultimately ultimately the judge was allowing it in court because he was saying that it's just completely different. Okay. Earlier that day versus in days ago or in the past is completely different, like kind of an argument. What do you think? Hello? Anybody?
Sorry,
Nick, go.
I
You're the
started getting-
expert. What the hell are you doing?
Yeah, Nick, I'm 4 doors more horse.
4 doors. You're the expert.
Sorry, I was tracing down a tweet that I
Both of
wanted
you
to-
guys. Oh, Jesus
Yeah.
Christ. Okay, forget this. I'm just gonna talk myself over here. So the last thing that they wanted to do was what they were cops of the video. Okay, that's it. That's pretty much it. And then there was just the victim thing. So that's it for the pre-trial. Now, how do I get this back? Yeah, that's too much. Okay.
So when you say in the past, you were talking about which one again?
Well, Rittenhouse.
There were several that he did that.
I
There
don't
were
have to.
several
I
that
don't have to recap this again. It's over. Okay, I'm not going to repeat myself.
Can we get to the trial now?
Yeah, no, I think that was fine. Especially the schoolyard one was just kids being kids, and he was defending his sister.
Yeah.
Like he got into a fight he shouldn't have, but he was a dumb kid, right?
Yeah, and
I was
they're
dumb when
trying-
I was that age.
They're trying to use his justification that he has a violent past and that it was only a
Yeah.
matter of time before he killed someone and then he kills again. But it's a stretch. It's a very, very long stretch.
Yeah, I think we touched on that last episode too, right? Some of those.
Did you all get in fights in high school?
Middle school was mine. I
Oh,
calmed
man,
down
what
in
a
high school. I just got
gangster.
into football.
Nobody wants to fuck with a football player. That's right. But yeah, it's normal. Like trying to bring in evidence of a high school fight that you're a psychopathic killer and this is in your blood. It just doesn't fly.
Yeah, it's like when people bring up that Obama smoked weed in college. It's like, yeah, so
And he did a little blow. And did a little blow. Hey.
I did not
Well,
inhale.
I'll be a devil's advocate and say it's kind of bullshit that Obama was like the head of an institution that put people away for life for doing that stuff, and he can laugh on it on Jimmy Kimmel and nothing happens to him. I think that is kind of bullshit.
Hey, Kamala Harris too, man.
Yeah, she's even
mean-
worse because that was like actively part of her job.
She was a DA. Like
Yeah.
she was like putting him in jail and then laughing.
Yeah, Obama can
then
maybe
putting him
argue
in-
he couldn't
and then
do anything
forcing him
about
in
it.
dangerous situations too.
Yeah, using him as a labor and trying to keep them from getting out of prison so she could keep him for slave labor.
Yeah, she actively wasn't like the worst thing she did. Something like she helped she helped the department hide evidence to try to keep a guy in prison. Something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
it's
I
like-
remember
she's a
she
piece of
used
shit.
them-
yeah.
I remember she forced them to help fight the fires or something like that.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Here's a bucket
Yeah,
of water.
she's scary.
basically. I'm like,
Okay.
nah.
So, are we going to talk about jury?
Jury selection? No,
Juries?
I don't think there was anything interesting about jury selection. It went by quick, a lot quicker than the Chauvin trial. They got their jurors and everyone seemed happy. There wasn't anyone who obviously was like shouldn't or should be on the jury.
All right.
Yeah, there were just pics here
expert.
and there saying, I moved somewhere. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay.
Other Nick, did you watch the jury selection?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
What?
I mean,
Give
certain
us
parts
give
of
us the
it,
highlights.
but
Give us the highlights here.
The highlights, there's a single mom who had kids and was working, I think, as a healthcare professional.
Oh, someone had an issue where if they get anxious, they have to go to the bathroom and they should be excused because he can't control when that happens. I think that was one of them.
Yeah, and I honestly,
I'm not
So
even joking.
interesting.
I like I said, I skipped over the trivia, and then he was explaining I think one of the coolest parts was him. I think briefly he mentioned, charges and weight of evidence or preponderance.
Yeah, there's a lot of procedural stuff. The judge is this total I kind of like him, but he seems like an old guy that you don't want to run into while you're trying to leave because he's going to talk your ear off about some story that you don't care about at all.
Oh, he had a story for everything.
I know, dude. He won't shut up.
He had a story for everything, but I think the other half of it is he wants to cross his I's and dot his T's. And yes, I said it that way.
I thought it was funny. He had a story about, how jury duty is your civil service. He's like, there's a couple things every American's obligated to do. One, you have to be drafted and fight for your war. Well, not that one anymore. And jury duty. Jury duty is the most important thing you can do that's left.
He's like, I'm only going to make a few exceptions here.
Also good for Rittenhouse. That was different than the Chauvin trial, which again, I'm the only guy talking about this. He doesn't have to wear a mask. So he can give that jury the whole puppy dog, don't send me to prison face.
It'd probably be better if he was wearing a mask because there's all kinds of news stories going on about how he yawned 4 times during the trial today.
or the smirks. I mean, you just saw a smirk.
Really? Are they? They're having stories like he's smirking in trial.
Did he smirk when his lawyer dropped the hard R on the N-bomb?
Oh, I don't think he did, but
I would have been convicted guilty at that point.
There's the smirk.
Yeah, dude. Was this a joke? Was New York Post doing like a joke article or something?
So
I'd be bored during my trial too.
And fact checkers, New York Post is a satirical kind of Globe.
Yeah, okay, well that's not because we all know that these trials are just riveting and the suspense will just keep you on the edge of your toes.
Dude, yeah. I yawned several times. But I mean, granted, I'm not on trial.
He also, by the way, by this point, everybody on the court floor knows everything that's coming. So he's already none of this is shocking to any of the lawyers or the defendant.
Let's not yawn. Just watching it makes you yawn.
To my point, if he was wearing a mask, nobody would have seen him yawn. So
and then maybe he wouldn't go to prison.
Yeah.
So.
Oh my gosh! Right. The fact that he did drop that hard R, I was like. But but the quote is a soft A.
Yeah. He got
what?
He used his N-word pass to its full advantage.
Oh my gosh!
All right. So first thing that happened at day one that I thought was really funny. I don't know if you guys caught this, but during the opening statement, really early on in the opening statement for the defense, the main the lawyer who was doing the opening argument called them victims.
Yes,
and then corrected himself.
All that faux pas.
Yeah.
Oh,
so they spent all that time. After all that time that they spent, the defense guy was the one that did it.
Yeah, and now that's opened up the door because they had to stop and kick the jury out several times. Well, can we talk about why he was at the hospital now? Because he fucked up that.
He opened the gates. He's like, no.
Yeah, and before the defense's opening argument, the prosecution objected because they found out that the defense was going to show a bunch of pictures and videos during the opening statement, and the prosecution thought, they objected and said, well, we didn't know we could do that, and this stuff hasn't been submitted to evidence. And at first, I'm thinking, y'all didn't talk about this before the actual opening statement started.
It's the way he made it sound was like they were blindsided by it.
Did you get the judge's good burn on the prosecution?
No, what?
When he's like, "Oh, this is not normal for you to bring in pictures and videos like this during your opening statement." He's like, "Well, actually, it is. And in fact, I've seen your law firm do it several times."
No,
was it? Oh, I thought he was talking about the defenses.
No, that
shifted over to the defense and pointed it out. Oh, that's even better. But he's like, normally civil cases.
Can we find that, you think?
I could try.
See if you can find that. But yeah, the judge basically said, no, this is totally normal. And so the defense, then the defense had to list every single damn picture that they were going to show. And that took 10 minutes.
No, the guy's like, it took him 5 minutes to just list it out. I'm like, well, yeah, it was 5 minutes to list it out. When
all 4 of Rittenhouse's yawns were probably in that time.
Probably.
It's gonna be impossible to find this because it was like one.
Yeah, it just
snip.
happened. It just
Like,
happened.
I need like 50 keywords in Google to get to the right point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
So
we want to go over the opening statement for the prosecution or the defense first.
Whatever you want.
Prosecution.
Yeah.
So I'll say
Okay.
the prosecution had a really good opening statement, as far as just like
Yes.
his flow, his dramatic pauses for like to really drive in his points. It was a well built speech compared to
How
the
little he messed up.
And
Yeah,
along the narrative too. The New York
Yes.
Times basically cut
Yeah,
and paste. It's like he
if-
watched that before the trial.
If you watch the New York Times 20-minute video of why Kyle is guilty, and the victims and protesters were just trying to stop him from his murderous rampage, that was like he really brought that into his speech and presented it well in a way to where if I was the jury, I'd be like, yeah, no, that sounds fine.
There were a couple things that were against the narrative, and I was very surprised. When he was painting the picture of everything happening, he admitted that there were looters and rioters among the Kenosha residents, not chaos tourists, but there were people of Kenosha who were looting and rioting. That completely goes against the narrative.
Mm-hmm.
I understand why he did it. He didn't want them,
He had
the
no choice.
defense
Yeah.
to dwell on it. So he's
He
like,
knew
this,
that they were gonna
we're not
bring
going to
this stuff
dispute
up.
this.
Yeah.
We're not going to dispute this, and this. He's controlling it, the flow. But that was huge.
He also
Normally-
got out ahead of everything. Yeah, like just like that, he got out ahead in front of it. But also, like the FBI video that he knew was coming, he got out ahead of it and said, "This is in our favor. It's going to show you that Rittenhouse was the aggressor." Now,
Yeah, in a
wasn't-
nutshell, their theory is Rosenbaum was shot in the back and he didn't have a gun. Therefore, he couldn't have been about to attack him, and that Rittenhouse chased after him first.
yeah,
I don't know what he's talking about. I haven't seen that evidence yet.
I saw it in the video, but it wasn't Rittenhouse chasing him. Like Rittenhouse coming onto the scene isn't a jog, and then he stops, and then Rosenbaum's to his right behind a car, and then Rosenbaum sees him, comes out from behind the car, and starts chasing Kyle. So it's two separate runs. In the second run, Kyle's running away from Rosenbaum. In the first run, it's not very apparent that either one of them's aware of each other.
Yeah, I was
So
actually
it's like
surprised
technically
about
he's
that
running in
evidence.
his direction, but
Mhm.
not at him.
Yeah,
That was actually a piece of the picture that I didn't know about before the hand.
that's
before all
the
those.
bombshell that got dropped by the FBI like last minute.
Yeah.
Yeah, everything before that was he did a fire extinguisher on the dumpster fire, and then started running. That there was
Yeah.
a black period of time where no one knew anything.
Yeah.
And
But pretty much the second part of his argument is that he wasn't defending himself from these rioters. The rioters were actually trying to stop him because he had just shot somebody and they believed that he was an active shooter, and they were
Mhm.
trying to save their, the town. They were trying to save the day by taking the gun
Which-
from
I think
disarming
is-
him.
Is bullshit because an active shooter keeps shooting. Like if he shoots and then stops, he's no
Yeah.
longer an active shooter. So to chase someone who's not
Yeah,
shooting,
It's the only active shooter who stopped and ran out. Well, no, because Cruz did too. So I guess that's not true. Some of them do stop and get
Cruz?
away. Yeah, Cruz, the Parkland shooter in Florida.
Nicholas Cruz.
Nicholas Cruz. Yeah,
Giving
he
us Nick's a
eventually.
bad name.
Hey, Nick,
Mm.
man. Simulation's just giving us too many Nicks.
true.
Yeah,
That's why I changed my name legally to Four Doors More Horse.
Yeah. So why don't
Yeah.
you explain that? Why don't you explain that meme now?
Oh, the best part of the day next to the
Yeah.
hard R.
What happened?
Yeah, so they brought into evidence during the examination of the first witness to set a timetable of when Kyle had acquired his AR-15, and they brought up his TikTok, which has the username 4 Doors More Horrors, and I lost my shit. I lost it a lot more than him doing the hard R, because I was half working when I heard the hard R, and I just like, did he really? No, he did. But when I saw the 4 Doors More Horrors, I almost
And-
broke my hand on my desk laughing.
Did he
Clapping his
even
sword.
mention the name, or did he just really just want to show it?
He just left it up there. He just left it up there. He's like, I'm going to show
Yeah.
you a picture, and then you see this.
That sneaky bastard.
He was
finding-
asking his sister's boyfriend, who was his friend, Dominic Black, right? He was the first person to give
first
testimony.
witness. Yeah.
He was asking him questions like, so in the background, is that your land that y'all were, target practicing at? He's like, yes, but it was all just a ploy to get his username up on the
Is
screen.
it, what color is that text there? What font do you think it is? Yes. Okay, that's interesting. Moving on now.
Arial? Oh no, it's Calibri.
Anyway, so yeah, prosecution. They went first, which I guess kind of gives. I don't. Okay, so I took psychology when I was in school, and we learned that if you're trying to remember or be remembered, you want to either go first or last. So I guess we can't say who gets an edge, right? Because there's only two. So either way, you're going to go first or last. So
Yeah.
I don't know who. I
If
don't
you're
know who
not
has
first
the
or
edge.
last.
Well,
Yeah.
last, usually that's a lasting impression. You can leave the
Right.
note in your favor.
That's the argument. Yeah, is that the defense doing the last closing argument gives them an edge, but the prosecution goes first, and that's like chess, right? You go first.
Yeah.
I
I mean, it's like that, Eminem movie where he took all the things that the other guy wanted to say, and the guy was left stumbling and fumbling at the mic because he had no material.
I'll have to take your word on that. I haven't seen an Eminem
Oh,
movie.
you haven't seen that one?
No.
Oh, okay.
Can we still be friends?
Yes. It's not that imperative. I was just wondering if that made me feel old or not.
No, you're talking about 8 Mile, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. No, I haven't seen it. Do I look like a guy that would watch a movie like that?
Yes.
Okay. Shit. So the defense got to use their pictures and videos. It's now, because we're already on the side of the defense, it's really hard for me to say who did better, because obviously
so
I think the defense did better. Duh.
I think presentation wise, the prosecution did better. There were, and yeah, so they talked about, so the prosecution almost mantraed their points in. They talked about, they had gunfire and fireworks going off all night. Yet Kyle was the only one who shot and killed somebody. They had people burning buildings down and setting fires to things. Yet Kyle was the only one who killed somebody. He almost poetically delivered his points. So they also pointed out the defense requirements. They still didn't mention the while committing crime clause. The defendant can only use deadly force if they reasonably believe that the force was necessary to avoid imminent death or great bodily harm to his or herself. Even the prosecution said that. And then I got some information. There was Dominic Black, and Kyle's sister Mackenzie was dating dating Dominic. There's no incest going on here. They bought it from an Ace Hardware. I didn't know Ace Hardware sold guns.
Depends on how rural you are, because you can buy guns at Walmart.
That's true.
Depends on where you are. Yeah.
Well, yeah. And I think, at first I thought the Walmart gun, the gun withdrawal from their stores was another, flag for, hey, we're on this side of the aisle.
No, you can still go buy hunting rifles and shotguns. So
except for certain locations,
which
is good.
If you're in a city, you're not going to get shit. But like,
Right.
I'm in the suburbs. My Walmart's stocked with all kinds of hunting gear.
Yeah, or if you're in Kenosha, you probably can't get a rifle from there or any of the hot zones of last year, where they were burning things down and looting.
Yeah.
Even the prosecution admitted, though, that what they were doing when they were protecting the property was okay. which I'm surprised because a lot of people argue life is more important than property, which it is. But he said there were a lot of people who were protecting property, and what they were
That's
doing
true.
at that
Yeah.
time was okay.
I was pretty
very
surprised. I was pretty surprised to hear that he was actually, pretty much excusing Kyle for going there and defending the property, which means they're probably not going to argue that he's part of this like racist militia group, because if he was going to argue that, he couldn't say that they had a right to defend that property.
They tried. I mean, the evidence admissal, they tried. Remember the meetup with the Proud Boys?
I actually
after
don't
the-
remember. I actually don't remember this.
In the evidence
Refresh his
admissal,
memory.
they were trying to admit to evidence that during his bond, he met up several months later with one of the Proud Boy leaders in a bar, and then they were taking pictures. And guys, this is a quote, doing this, and they're like, "Oh, it's white power symbols," which at this point it could be. To be fair, I mean, it's really the circle.
It is, but it isn't.
It is, but it isn't.
That's the weird thing.
It's
Even
camouflage in the open for people who do want to be racist, but
Yeah.
or it's people who are just trolling the fuck out of people.
It's kind of funny. People who would do this, like, oh shit, I just did it. We just did it on. We're screwed now, guys. But we just someone's gonna crop this. But
Okay, you know what? I was actually in this last weekend. I was at a concert in downtown Austin, a very liberal place, if you would. And I had
Austin?
like, "Hey, are you okay?" And I was like, "Oh shit!"
What if
They're
I
all like,
tried?
we're fine," because there was a mosh pit going on, and they were smashed pretty bad.
It's all right. Usually when I go out in public, black people will come up to me like, "Hey man, why do you shave your head like that?" And I have to
Wait,
explain.
really?
Yeah, and I have to explain. Well, you see, I'm bald, and I don't want the side hair. It makes me look 30 years older.
That's why I got to get a hat.
See,
I'm not a
Start
skinhead.
wearing
You do
hats.
not need to be concerned.
Oh, yeah. When I shaved my head out of the blue and I was, streaming and stuff, I actually had to put, why I did it. It was a breast cancer awareness thing, and I did it with someone else who I personally knew and am related to, who had to shave their head when they were in chemo. But then I was like, I will get canceled so quick if I just shave my head with no explanation.
Yeah, it didn't help having the swastika tattoo, did it?
I get that one
No,
laser
no.
removed. I just tell people now I'm trying to be more like my idol, Jeff Bezos. And they're like, oh, okay.
Maybe get rich like him.
It's like a solar
Yeah.
panel for wealth.
Where were we?
So they did try to tie it to him, but but the prosecution seems to have shifted gears. I don't know how they're going to try to go back around to that without doing it. Maybe they just dropped that portion, but
They let the
fact
media
that they
do that.
gave a concession in the trial was actually very surprising.
Yeah, it's almost like they know the defense is going to be able to put such a good argument that what they were doing was legal, that they're, like we said, they're trying to get out ahead of it and
Yeah,
steal that
it's almost
from
like
them.
he's trying to focus the argument on something that he's going to be able to win instead of avoiding this. He's trying to focus on the jury's attention on the details he wants to
Yeah.
help convict, instead of going on these emotional responses that you normally get on a Facebook argument of crossing state lines and everything else. I didn't know Kyle's parents were separated and his mom actually lived in Kenosha, though. That's news to
Oh.
me. So
Yeah.
yeah. So
Well, that's-
people
that's
What
yeah.
you're saying is if his dad was there, none of this would have happened.
his dad lived in Illinois, so I think that's the first problem.
Yeah.
But no, that's one of the points the defense brought up was, yeah, he worked at a rec center in that county, and his mom lived in Kenosha. I'm like, then the argument that it's not his community and he's one of these chaos tourists is much less valid.
Yeah, well, that's a media thing. The media is the one
Right.
saying like, "Oh, he's just coming from a different town. He doesn't even live here. What's he doing?" And
But he
Yeah.
literally lives like 10 minutes.
he's not that
outside
far.
the
Yeah,
town.
yeah.
Well,
the
the
cross-
His
prosec-
town.
yeah, they're
The
at state
prosecution
lines. so-
tried.
Yeah.
The prosecution tried during the pretrial to label him a chaos tourist,
Interesting.
And but the fact that they did this protecting property concession kind of fights their own narrative there.
It sounds like the judge has done a lot more for the defense than even we realize by
This was the
barring all this from
prosecution.
evidence.
Well, I mean, yeah, you're right. Maybe
He could have allowed
maybe
it. I mean, the
prosecution
judge
had
can
fully-
allow whatever he wants.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Maybe they had to shift gears a lot.
Yeah.
So
So one thing
now I guess I'm getting into the prosecution or the defense.
Yeah. Well, one more
statement.
thing from the prosecution before we move on, because one thing I noticed that they didn't actually drive home, but they might be keeping it in their back pocket. So we've talked a lot before the trial about how their theory may be because he was in the process of illegally owning that firearm, he's not allowed to claim self-defense, because you're not allowed to claim self-defense if you're in the process of committing a crime when the action took place. And that's really vague. And we did a little bit of research about it, because then we thought, well, it can't mean any crime, right? That doesn't make sense, right? So you're saying if I'm jaywalking and someone attacks me and I shoot him, I can't say self-defense because I was jaywalking. Like, nobody would say that. So if we did a little bit more research, and the crime is supposed to have some sort of causal link to the actual thing that happened. And this is where Rittenhouse is in trouble, because there is a causal link. If he had not ever illegally obtained that firearm and carried it with him, this may never have happened, and those people might not have been killed. Therefore, he can't claim self-defense. But he didn't say that. Like, they have all the tools there. Like, they're proving it was illegal. So why aren't they making that link?
Well, they're not yet. I think they will. I think they want it to be lingering more. They want to kind of finish with that.
Yeah, I think so too.
Right now we're seeing that they're painting the picture of when he purchased it, maybe why he purchased it, and I know I'm starting to get into the first
testimony,
but I don't want to do that yet.
So I think the counter argument here is, you don't, like you said, you don't lose your right to self-defense because of a misdemeanor like that. It doesn't matter if he was 15 or 20, like, you still have a right to self-defense. So like, he could be guilty of the misdemeanor, but still be clear of the murder charges for self-defense. They're dislocated. And the only time that you lose your right to self-defense is if you were the active aggressor. But even that goes away if you make an attempt to disconnect and run away. So if you're the active aggressor, like you punch someone and they start fighting you and you run away, like, oh, I made a mistake, or you try to get away, and that person comes back and finds you and continues the fight, and you kill him in the second encounter, you get to claim self-defense again. Like, it's a lot more nuanced than just, oh, he committed one crime, so therefore he's screwed.
Well, to the letter of the law, it's not nuanced. And the precedent, though, of, I think it was, we looked it up, Chris, it was Hayes versus State.
And it was a similar situation to this, where a guy he bought a gun illegally and used it to, like, defend himself while he was, like, at his son's house or something. Like, he was at his son's house and someone attacked him and he killed. It was the same situation, really.
Actually, that was the case that quoted Hayes versus State, and is actually ongoing now.
Okay.
It can't be now set as precedent. But it's a very much a similar situation where they said it has to be linked to the crime. So unfortunately, there was another guy with a ball cap and the same kind of shirt and shorts, or short leggings that Kyle was wearing, who got in an altercation with Rosenbaum earlier. So Rosenbaum could have seen him in the dark and thought he was the same guy and wanted to continue the fight. And in that instance, Rosenbaum was being held back from actually going up against the line of guys with guns at the time. So it could have been an instance of mistaken identity. So that could be argued. And it's then him wielding an AR-15 it can then be called directly in relation to this crime.
Yeah.
But
because the thing they're trying to avoid, the thing they don't like is, let's say you're in the middle of armed robbery at a bank, and then while you're running out of the bank, some random dude on the street starts attacking you, and you defend yourself and kill him. They don't want to give that guy a self-defense argument because he was just in the middle of this, like, violent crime. that somebody
Right,
got caught in
no.
the crossfire of. Like he can't.
If you're running from the, if you're running from a bank robbery, like you said, and then someone, the cops start shooting and hit your driver, you can't shoot the cops in self-defense
Yeah.
or in the defense of another.
All right, let's move on. So the defense's argument, their opening statement.
They actually identified Zeminski as the person who first shot in the air that night.
Yeah.
Um,
Who may have instigated the whole thing.
yes, and they even said in their opening statement that he was following Rosenbaum the whole time. They were like a trio going around. And if you ask me, these are the real chaos tourists. But I mean, Rosenbaum lived in the area. Well, he didn't live in the area.
Lived in the
He
local
was-
psych ward.
Yeah, he just
he
recently was
was-
let out of a hospital.
He was
in the
let out of the
area.
hospital and got kicked out of the person he was barred from seeing his
Yeah.
place.
The jury's not
Right.
going to know. The jury may or may not know that it's a mental hospital. Side note, that was another thing they argued about over whether or not they were allowed to call the hospital a mental hospital or just a hospital, because they
Right.
were
And
afraid that
the-
would hurt his reputation.
The judge actually ruled in favor of the prosecution here,
Mhm.
saying it's a hospital. It's a hospital's a hospital. I mean, unless you're going to try and prove that he was, and the prosecution was right. Unless you're going to prove that his reasoning for a mental hospital gave a diagnosis that then would directly relate to this incident, that's fair.
Yeah.
That was leaked, however, that he was suicidal. That's why he was there.
Right.
To me,
Um,
that's definitely in play. If you're got
I
a
mean,
death
the
wish.
guy who's saying "shoot me,"
Shoot me.
I'm not gonna
Not
say
worth
the
it.
hard R. N-word, shoot me N-word. Then
You're not a lawyer. You don't have that privilege.
I don't.
What the heck's a SAG card?
A what?
Only written us had a SAG, a SAG card. What's that?
Is that the hunting?
I don't
Card?
know. We'll see what he says. So
Screen Actors Guild?
who did they say?
Ah.
Nice.
Screen actor.
Alec Baldwin. were
Oh
there that
no,
night.
it
Topical.
was. It was. Oh, man.
Topical.
Nice.
So who did he say shot the first shot?
Zeminski. I
Who's that?
didn't get his
Mhm.
first name, but him and Kelly Zeminski.
I think it was
were the
Kyle
ones-
Zeminski, so it can be confusing.
Oh, was it Kyle? It was Kyle and Kelly. Oh man.
What are
So
we talking
okay.
about?
So Zeminski. So you remember that scene where it shows him running, and
It
then
was
there's a
Josh.
shot.
Josh Zeminski, sorry.
Oh, Josh.
Yeah.
Okay. So let me update my notes. So Josh Zeminski was actually the one who first shot in the air, while Rosenbaum was still chasing Kyle. Kyle then got into the vehicles, and there was a group of people on the other side of the vehicles. There was a shot. Kyle then turned around shortly. There was a shot. Rosenbaum threw his bag, which now there's a whole thing about the whole reason that the prosecution brought up the why what was in the bag is because it's going to be part in play. But they're like, no, it's just his daily living stuff. Which, heads up, Kyle didn't know that. So you're supposed to go from Kyle's perspective to see if he was justified. But anyway, so Josh Zeminski and Kelly Zeminski were both going around with Rosenbaum that whole time, and then they chased after Kyle. And then Josh Zeminski, with a firearm, shot into the air before Rittenhouse turned around and shot Rosenbaum.
Definitely something that would put you on edge a little bit.
Yeah,
Yes,
so you're
someone
being
behind you shot. You turn around, someone's lunging for you, allegedly, and we're going to hear something about it. Allegedly said "fuck you" and then lunged at him and reached for his gun. We're supposed to hear testimony of that later.
Mm-hmm.
And then after he had shot him, you could hear Josh Zeminski and Kelly Zeminski saying, "He shot somebody. Get him. Cranium that bitch."
Yep.
These guys are the instigators here. These guys are the ones that cause the confusion. I would of the video of the New York Times video saying, "Hey, these guys were victims." I could believe that, if not for one or two things that happened later. But I could believe that the guy with the skateboard was just Mr. Who was boyfriend of Miss Gettings. Just he saw someone who was an active shooter try to stop him. In which case, he did act as a hero. He did it, unfortunately, not in the best way. He wasn't trained, and he died. I will believe that. And then he was instigated by Josh and Kelly Zemensky, who should be the ones on trial here for instigating this scenario.
For instigating, yeah. Yeah, it is kind of interesting. Like the prosecution's argument that they believed that they were like they were doing this noble thing by stopping the shooter who was like attacking them, because they probably did believe that these people were like dangerous right-wing militia people who were there to like shoot. Like in their minds, that's what they believed was going on.
Mm-hmm.
So they probably did believe they were stopping an active shooter.
Yep, you hit mute, buddy.
You just muted yourself, bud.
I think
I don't think anybody's gonna nobody's gonna hear what I said. It's gonna
I
be
didn't
a
know we
big
were approaching
mystery.
the bench.
How did I do that?
I think there is one critical piece of evidence that we're overlooking. The prosecution has. Rosenbaum is a manlet. He's 5'3".
And the
Obviously.
manlet defense.
Oh yes,
Not a harm to
150
anyone.
pounds. 150 pounds.
This
dude
man
was
is an
stocky.
oversized woman.
Yeah.
No, the guy was 150 pounds, but and you know, as they said, and that's right. During the prosecution statement, they're like, yeah, he was going up against people and they just shoved him away. I'm like, that's technically a physical altercation at that point.
Yeah.
But yeah, they just shoved him away. He's like, oh, but no one shot him. But Kyle did.
When Rosenbaum was chasing Kyle should have just picked him up and put him into this playpen.
Yeah.
Shit.
He should have simply put Rosenbaum in timeout rather than shooting him dead.
He should have given him the dunce cap and put him in the corner.
Yeah, Rosenbaum, like when they show footage of him being all amped up, he's a pretty scary looking guy. Like,
I mean, he looked like
trying
a
to find
solid
that
guy
footage.
in every piece of footage I saw.
Just don't put him next to a
Like,
yardstick.
He looked like the dude looked like Scrappy's do on steroids. Okay.
I'm gonna look up some. Let's see.
But anyway, so but you're right. I think that was funny. Oh yeah, and also the defense is saying some really stupid stuff, just like they did in the evidence discussion. They're trying to submit that Rosenbaum was as a prohibited possessor, and he was trying to steal the weapon so he could carry it, because there were a lot of people with weapons all over the place. I'm like, that is the dumbest stance and approach I would ever take on this situation.
I like the he's going to try to behead him with the skateboard quote.
Oh, that one got an objection.
Yeah.
That one got an objection. Oh man, yeah. But people don't realize that a skateboard is a blunt object, and that hitting someone in the head with a blunt object is considered lethal force.
I've seen some pretty brutal videos of people getting
or
smacked in
jump
these
kicking
riots
someone
with.
in the head.
So
is
there's a
force.
reason a lot of cops don't carry batons anymore.
Yeah, they carry skateboards.
Carry skateboards. It's more efficient.
My police issued skateboard. I think. Okay, cool.
Oh
Here,
my
let's
gosh.
watch this. I found some footage of Rosenbaum. Let's see. There he is. He looks like the guy from Gangs of New York, that short Irish dude.
Yeah.
Oh, they're bleeping it.
I'd like
That's
to
no
point
fun.
out there's a woman standing next to him, and they're about the same height.
Yeah. That's why he's so pissed off. I would be
Napoleon
too.
syndrome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, no, he's, and they didn't want to bring up his record. That was also expunged from the evidence, which I also agree with. I mean, as much as people, like to see that there's one less child diddler in the world, it does not have an effect on whether it was self-defense or not.
No,
He wasn't actively making lewd faces and trying to diddle Kyle because he was about to be unripe.
He wasn't trying to show him a puppy and get him into his van.
Yeah,
Right.
but if the jury figures out he's a pedo, he's done for. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I guarantee you, some of the people sitting in that jury box are already aware of that theory. That's another question. Do you think there's more Second Amendment like nuts or like progressive BLM liberals on the jury? That's the real battle here.
I think the
I don't
progressives would have outed themselves.
I don't think so. I think the Second Amendment people are more likely to be like, I'm a good citizen. I'm always going to tell the truth, even when I'm under oath. Dude, we know that people lie to get seated on juries. I don't think.
I don't know.
Well,
I mean, it is still random selection, like on whether you get selected to report. But man, I don't know. Man. It's supposed to be people from Kenosha, right?
Yeah, I wanted to share this funny video real quick.
You shouldn't be laughing at this.
I love the internet. That's
Yeah.
amazing. So
Why would you even?
Funny, that didn't even phase me when he said it.
I stopped. I was like,
it
what,
was
really?
a direct quote.
Yeah, he was quoting.
It was a
Rosenbaum
direct
when-
quote that he misquoted because the other guy didn't use a hard R. So
Yeah, it was one white dude talking to another white dude. So I don't know how that word got inserted in there. Anyway,
I don't know, man. I don't know. Anyway, but yeah. Oh, yeah. Another thing the defense did stupid. They're like Kelly. They're like, Kelly, Josh had a firearm and Kelly had a really oversized flashlight, which you clearly didn't need that night. I'm like, it's nighttime.
Yeah.
It's nighttime. I don't care if it's lit up right there. To get to your car, a flashlight's really good to have. What stupid shit is this?
that caliber
Well,
flashlight's way too powerful.
That
Was it
caliber,
like the-
it's a 50
this-
caliber flashlight with
Was it
4
was it one of
Gs.
those mag lights that takes 6 D cells? Like, yeah, that's a
The only
baton.
kind they
That's
have.
some heft, man.
You mean
I mean,
flashlights?
it might have been. It might have been.
Yeah, flashlights
but-
and not a toy light.
I don't know. I
I
think
mean-
you could argue that if you're not using your phone as a flashlight, like you put too much thought into this.
I store flashlights in places.
Yeah,
But-
what kinds of flashlights?
I'm sorry, was that flashlight?
Say flight or flashlight.
I store those in other places.
Both are easily accessible at all times.
Just don't put them in
Of
the
course.
same place and accidentally get them mixed up.
That's a fun time.
And then after 15 minutes, I realized something's not right
15
here.
minutes. I realized
Something's not
I was
right
a
here.
AAA.
Once it was lighting up the room.
I discovered perpetual motion and energy.
All right, so
Yeah,
all in
so-
all, like the defense is, they started off a little weak, but I think showing the video and the pictures like super helped them. I think.
Yeah, so
I think it did.
they went the angle of this is a very visual trial. Like you have to contradict what the prosecution is saying versus what your eyes are seeing. So while the defense didn't put up a good auditory like the prosecution did to start, it's kind of hard to overcome what you're seeing on the screens.
Yeah, and that was supposedly the jury's first exposure to that evidence, right? Or the ideal. It's ideally
First
their first
time.
exposure. Yeah, their first exposure to that evidence is now slanted towards the defense. They're pointing out, okay, here's a gun. Here's this. Now he definitely said a few things, and he definitely said things in wrong order. Like he combined jump kick guy and skateboard kid. Like he said, skateboard kid kicked him in the face and then tried to crush his skull and decapitate him. It's like, wait, two different guys, guy. Two different guys.
He's really hamming it up how aggressive they were. I mean, they were super aggressive. Like, you don't need to say they're going to decapitate you whenever, like, they're going to smash your head in with a skateboard, which do just fine.
Yeah. I mean,
another,
that should be. Sorry, good.
that's okay. Another thing you got to remember is that the prosecution goes first. And so day after day after day after day, it's going to be mostly the prosecution, like winning most of the battles because they're calling the witnesses, they're doing all the. So the defense opening up their argument with actually showing evidence and talking about it, it's like they're finding a way to get a word in before the prosecution gets their day forever. Like it's almost like it's kind of like, it's kind of like starting his argument, like starting the defense's argument before it gets to them.
And that's
Right,
why
I mean,
the prosecution was so salty about them doing the pictures right out the front.
Yeah, I mean, it was setting the tone. That's what the opening statements are supposed to be.
But
We're gonna prove this, and then.
But I'm surprised they didn't know about that. Like, was that really the first time that they knew that they were going to do that with their opening statement?
Know.
Isn't that amazing?
I don't know. I wonder how much
It's
that
been
the
a year.
prosecution's pretending.
But don't be surprised how many people live under a rock.
You mean as far as seeing the material the first time?
Yeah, like
Oh, we were talking about the prosecution not knowing about the
Not
slideshow.
knowing that they
I
were
thought we were
gonna,
talking about
like,
the jury.
no, it's like they spend a year preparing for this trial, and
Mhm.
they didn't know that the defense was going to show video and pictures during their opening statement.
No,
I
because
can
that's,
see
that's
someone
not,
keeping that close to the vest.
as they said in the in their discussion, that's normally common in like civil cases, not criminal cases. So they were breaking the norms of a criminal case, but it's not against the rules. So they were salty that they're breaking convention because the prosecution has a very deliberate way that they want to present these videos without it being too damaging to their narrative.
Right.
And by dumping those videos out first before the prosecution can reclip them or
That's
reposition
true.
them,
Maybe
it
not
kind of-
tell them. Yeah.
it stumbles their argument.
Yeah.
They can spin it in the defense favors, and so
It's
every
like
time someone
football.
sees that,
It's like we're talking about football. Isn't this weird?
Actually, speaking of football, do they toss a coin or does the prosecution always go first?
Prosecution always goes first.
Okay, wasn't sure.
I don't
about
know.
those.
No, they always do
I-
because it's like the prosecution is the one with who the burden of proof is on, right? Because they're the one making the accusation.
All right, Kyle, it's your life on the line. Flip the coin.
They arm wrestle.
Sorry,
sorry, it landed on its side.
You go straight to jail.
Straight to jail. Don't pass go.
Yeah, you can just
Um,
you can forego the trial and just find out right now by flipping a coin. Guilty on one side, not guilty on the other side.
Mistrial on the edge.
Yeah. So another interesting thing is Miss Getting, Skateboard Man's girlfriend, refused to comply with police and prosecution or the defense to submit the skateboard into evidence. Not sure if I care about that.
The skateboard.
I mean, it's kind of sentimental, right? You don't want that to be gone. I mean,
I mean, he'll get it back.
in hell.
No, like if Kyle doesn't get convicted of the misdemeanor charge of illegally possessing the firearm, now that he's 18, when the trial's over, they'll give him his AR-15 back.
But not the skateboard. The guy's dead.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I forgot
Yeah,
that
like,
was
why
shot in the
didn't they get
chest.
the skateboard? Dude,
She'll
okay,
get the
I know why.
skateboard.
I know why.
I
know
should-
why.
I shouldn't say in hell because honestly, even though they were there protesting as white people in favor of black people,
Whatever.
they-
Nick. We know you're this Bible thumping lunatic, this like
Of
Jehovah's
course, I'm-
Witness character. So
what?
we know
Now you've
that
gone
you
too far.
believe in hell.
Bible thumping I can take. JW, dude. But anyway, so honestly, I don't know if that's really much to go on. But
I know why. It's because the skateboard went back to the family, and the defense was the one that was asking for it because they want to show how mean and ugly the
And how-
skateboard was.
Well, I
and
mean, how
deadly
big
it
and
was.
heavy it could be.
And the family was
it's-
like, "Screw you! We're not giving you this," because they're probably
police-
hoping Rosenbaum goes to prison.
The police requested it, and yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
I understand.
Rosenbaum goes to prison?
Rosenbaum's not going anywhere else, man.
I'll keep
Rittenhouse.
forgetting who got
Rittenhouse.
shot.
Rittenhouse, Rosenbaum. It's easy to get those mixed up.
Skate
Jump
little
kid.
bulls.
Kid. but yeah, no. It's so apparently
Yeah.
Gettings had it, and that's the girlfriend.
All right, let's get off the opening statements. So,
Oh, but
um,
there's one more thing that was really cool.
all right, go.
So they addressed the 4 shots. There were 2 to his, one to his leg, one to his pelvis, one to his chest, and one to the back of his
Back.
head.
Yeah.
Those 4 shots happened in 0.71 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
That is very fast.
Yeah.
I
And
mean,
I guess while
he
he's
was pulling the
falling,
trigger and hitting that reset as he was coming up. He hit him in the leg, the chest, the pelvis, the chest, and then as he was falling forward from the pelvis shot into the head.
Yeah, and
The guy
they tried
basically
to make
probably
it,
closed his eyes and pulled the trigger a bunch of times.
they tried to position it to where it was, he shot him in the back. Therefore,
Yeah, executioner style.
yeah,
Yeah.
he was fleeing, but really it was 4 shots and he was falling. So by the 4th shot, it was in his back. But like really,
Yeah,
it's one volley. It shouldn't be.
I don't know
considered-
what 0.71 seconds anyone could react that fast for. I mean, you should. I mean, you should have your, for everyone who doesn't know shooting, every time you shoot, you're responsible for that bullet. So you shouldn't just close your eyes and pull the trigger. You should see the sight, the target in your sights before you pull the trigger again.
Well, I think he saw him. He didn't miss any of the shots.
True. So
So
yeah, he
like,
didn't.
even on the reckless endangerment of I forget the reporter's name who was right there. Is it like, I know you're accountable for your bullets, but he hit his target, so all 4 went into him. If the reporter were to get hit by any, it would have to pass through Rosenbaum first before it hit the reporter.
Right. And that's an argument. You have to, and gun safety laws or rules, not laws, rules. Got to know what's between your target and yourself. Got to know what's beyond the target as well. And you got to know what your target is.
Mhm.
That's just gun safety 101. So, yes, it is technically possibly endangerment. Is he justified? That's the trial, but would I have done anything different? Maybe not. I apparently I could have picked up the guy with one hand and then just give him a wedgie.
I'm telling you, that's what's going to get him.
Yeah. So, do y'all want to talk about witnesses?
Sure.
All
Yeah,
right.
I got my collar set up properly. Hold on, I have too many buttons.
Yeah, the
Sorry.
first guy was a major slob because he had a tie on and he didn't button his top button. So clearly the guy who dressed up Rittenhouse didn't give him the same treatment.
This is Dominic Black we're talking about, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So first witness was Kyle Rittenhouse's friend that bought him his illegally possessed AR-15 rifle.
Mhm.
And so they were asking him, and also he went with him to Kenosha. So he's kind of a double whammy there.
Mhm.
So the prosecution talked to him, and mostly what they were trying to establish, obviously, was that Rittenhouse illegally obtained a firearm. And, and then I guess they also tried to, I don't know why they, what the point was of them talking about like what they did like the day before or the morning of, where it was just completely unrelated to the shooting. That guy.
Oh yeah. What's your shooting history? Do you all go hunting often?
Yeah, who cares? Yeah, what's
Yeah.
your favorite place to hunt? Like, okay.
Well, I think he was leading up to an interesting question when he tried to make him say it, and because he wasn't allowed to admit it to evidence. There was a video that they were trying to submit that showed them outside of a CVS, and Kyle saying, "If I had my gun, I would shoot them." They were looting what appears to be looting the CVS.
Yeah, I saw
Instead,
that. Yeah.
it was not admitted to evidence because the judge said this doesn't prove anything, and of his state of mind at that time. And then, if even so, he didn't take action. This almost counterproves it. And the prosecution said, "Well, he did take action. What was his action? He called 911." Oh my gosh. He's a vigilante
that's no good.
madman. So
Yeah.
But also good for the judge. I mean, good for the
What-
defense.
What I thought about was interesting about the questioning though was the arrangement of the purchase. So Kyle's turning 18 in short order. He wants a gun, but Dominic's like, well, you're not of age yet, so you can give me the money. I'll buy the gun and hold it for you. And then, whenever we go shooting, you can use it, but until you're 18, you don't get to take full possession of it. And I'm wondering what the legal implications are of that. If that's enough to avoid the straw purchase. 'Cause technically, it's like he just funded it, but it's in Dominic's possession.
So that's actually a very good point, because when stored, it was technically in Dominic's stepdad's possession, because it was stored in a safe that only his stepdad knows the combination of.
Mm-hmm.
So he did purchase it. He wasn't technically allowed to own it. At that point, it is completely arguable that he was given money to purchase a weapon. He bought the weapon, but he never transferred it to Rittenhouse.
Yeah.
Until and he didn't transfer it to Rittenhouse.
But yeah,
before
basically
he
was saying it was basically he was his friend and he wanted to buy it for him, but he knew he wasn't 18. So it's like, well, I'm going to buy it for you, but I'm going to hang on to it until you turn 18 and then I'm going to give it to you.
Which is a couple months. Like,
right.
That's the time frame we're talking about.
But then what happened was Rittenhouse went back to visit him one day and he just kind of like left with it one day and he didn't stop him. Like Black didn't stop him. So that was like Rittenhouse.
That.
Yeah. He was talking about how Rittenhouse like came and got the gun and Black knew that he wasn't supposed to be taking possession of the gun, but he was, and he didn't do anything to stop him. Just, I guess he didn't.
Were they just going to shoot in their own gravel range? Was that the?
No, I think that was, well, it's when they were going to Kenosha. He was 17 when that happened. Right.
Oh, so this was, he decided to take his own gun for Kenosha, and Black was not sure that he should take it at that point.
He was, so Rittenhouse, and what I remember him talking about was how Rittenhouse like came to be in possession of it. Was he went to his house once and kind of like had the gun and was just kind of like, I'm taking this, and because he wanted it, and Black just like didn't do anything to stop him.
Well, I mean, Black brought his own gun too. Like they wanted it for protection.
Yeah.
Well, but then later they took it to Kenosha because at that point I think it was in his possession. Like I think Kyle had it at that point. He did own it before he was supposed to.
I don't remember this part of the testimony.
Okay. Yeah, that was something that came up later.
Right, okay. But actually having the firearm, it's a minor in possession. Okay, it's a misdemeanor. I don't think that's going to negate his self-defense claim. The straw purchase, that's on Dominic himself. Kyle's not going to be charged with the straw purchase. Dominic is. In fact, the prosecution even mentioned, I have a case against you, Dominic, for the straw purchase. So
yeah.
Two separate charges. The only thing that matters is was Kyle illegally in possession, and there's some legal gray area around that. No, I think at the end of the day, if he gets off on the murder charges and he only has a misdemeanor, it's like, okay, yeah, give the state your gun and then just go buy another one.
Yeah, and that was kind of a sad thing that they revealed during his testimony at the very end of the prosecution's questions was, he's in the middle of being charged by the same guy who's talking to him, and he charged him 2 months prior, and they said, like in front of the court and everybody, the reason why he agreed to do it was in case he ends up getting convicted. It's kind of like he struck a deal with the prosecutor. If you testify in this Rittenhouse trial, then I will recommend a lighter sentence if it ever gets to the sentencing phase. And that's why he agreed to do it.
Like offer a better plea deal almost.
Yeah, basically he was threatening him. They even said that he charged him 2 months ago. Like Rittenhouse was charged forever ago, and they waited to do this because the prosecutor, I guess, at some point realized, oh, this will help me in this case if I charge his friend, and then I can threaten him to get him on the stand, and then leverage. So imagine being that guy. Like imagine that being that guy sitting there with the guy who's threatening to put you in prison and like answering his questions and trying to be nice. Like you still have to be polite and nice to him in front of the jury and everything, and the judge, and but his mental state is probably just like, fuck you, man. Like, you're ruining my fucking life.
I need to take a quick time out. I'll be back in like 2 minutes.
All right. So anything else about the first, like, I don't know. I mean, it was a pretty short question, and let me think. The defense's their counter examination.
Oh,
What was
So,
what was that like?
sorry, I actually didn't get to get to that part.
Okay, let me think.
Fortunately, at the time.
So,
But if I can go back real quick,
Sure.
on the defense said something. I just saw my note here. So the defense also put a note out that's saying, I remember when I was talking about that New York Times video. I was like, okay, so Gage has been videotaping that whole time. He actually went up to Kyle and said, "Who shot?" or "What happened?" And you could hear Kyle saying, I'm going to the police."
Mhm.
And so he was shuffling in his odd shuffle state, or half jog shuffle. By the way, for people who don't know, there is a whole organization around what to do after you have to use your weapon in self-defense. I'll get to that here in a second. Sorry, I need to finish my statement.
Yeah.
But so Gage recorded that, and then he turned around, and then he heard the Zemenskys say he shot somebody. So he started chasing. Gage also lied to the police, saying that he lost his gun running, even though there are now video evidence showing that he had drawn on him.
Mm-hmm.
And there is also evidence to that he had said, "I wish I'd shot the little fucker." After
Say that again. You got garbled. You got garbled. What did he say?
"I wish I shot the fucker."
Ugh.
He said while he was in the hospital. I understand, dude. You're on pain medicine and your whole arm's messed up. I can understand that sentiment. That I won't damn
you get a
for
pass.
that.
You get a pass for whatever you said after that.
But the lying to police saying you lost your gun in a run, that's a little iffy. But
yeah, he was obviously
even
trying
then,
to protect himself.
He was trying to protect himself, and make it look like that guy. I'd say that's more damning, but he could have also been in a state of shock.
Yeah, next time we do this, I need to have this Rittenhouse footage like queued up and ready to go. So when we talk about something, we can like go review that part.
Yeah. Another note. Well, I'll get to it after you put the clip up.
Nah, it's okay. It'll take me a while to kind of scan through this, but
so the USCCA, a very large concealed carry organization in the United States, they, and as well as Legal Shield is another big one. They all advise you if you get a carry permit that you should get a lawyer if you carry. You should probably, of course, they'll want to sell you a lawyership even if you don't carry, but you should get a lawyer if you think you might have to ever use a weapon in self-defense. Because when that happens, if that ever happens to you, you just took a life. You're in shock from just what happened. You're still processing things by the time the cops come. Now, by the time the cops come, it's way too late for any action to be defending you. But which is why people carry, or people have weapons in their house. But at that point, you're in shock. And so their advisement to people who are in that situation is
not me, man.
Never talk.
I'm cool as shit when I do it.
They say, don't talk to the cops. You're in shock. You're going to damn yourself and admit to a crime that you did not commit when really you did it in self-defense.
Yeah.
That is the biggest. Sorry.
I'm just going to say to everybody listening that this should be like the Gulag motto or whatever. If you're ever involved in any situation like this, just say the word lawyer over and over again until you find yourself talking to one.
I thought it was 4 doors, more whores.
That's this episode's motto. But as I was saying, Nick Prime, there's USCCA and Legal Shield. They all say if you're ever involved in a defensive shooting,
I was in fear for my life.
No, you don't say anything.
Just say
you
lawyer,
say, I want to
lawyer,
talk to my
lawyer. Just keep
you
saying
don't
the word
say
lawyer.
anything because, and then the cops will have to not ever ask you questions unless you foolishly say something. and then you talk to a lawyer who will help you get your thoughts processed because you're in shock. If you're a sane person who has to defend their life and you end up taking another, you're in shock. And I think a lot of people look at the Rittenhouse videos and they don't realize the dude's calling somebody. He's probably in shock that whole time.
You feel better after the first one. The more you do, the better you feel. You know,
Yeah, he's in less shock after
say,
biceps. I mean, he took out biceps like it was nothing.
Yeah.
You know.
The more you get to I promise. The more
there wasn't a lot of bicep to begin with. Let's be honest.
Yeah, what little bicep he had left. Yeah, I guess now he's not going to be able to use most of the machines and stuff at the gym now. He's going to have to be a free weights guy.
He'll be permanently attaching flashlights to his desk. I mean,
and flashlights. So the first witness, the defense did a cross-examination, but I can't remember exactly like what their angle was. I mean, the first witness was mostly non-eventful. It was just to establish that Rittenhouse got the illegal gun and how that went down.
It had very little to do on the murder or self-defense charge.
The defense did some sort of cross-examination because unfortunately some of his testimony was pretty damning to Rittenhouse, so they had to do some sort of back and forth. But the defense, it was basically like they did it because they had to. I don't really remember much about it. But then one of the things that the prosecution asked multiple times to both the witnesses today was, was anybody shooting? How was the event early on? Were people hitting each other? Was there any violence? Were there any fires? Just because they wanted to get them to say, like, they're trying to brand this as a mostly peaceful protest, right? So they're trying to ask them constantly, like, was anybody like destroying anything where you were? No, But anyway, so the second witness we weren't allowed to see. It was a mystery witness. It was, and you said it was because it was someone from the FBI, maybe?
It is from the FBI. This is confirmed. Jack Posobiec was all over it. It was actually an insider reporter. Posobiec, sorry.
There's no R in there. Anyway.
I always read that like there is. Yeah. Andrew.
Reading with the hard R, man.
That's how I live my life. So I'm going to share a Twitter thread real quick. Because this is a reporter who was inside the room talking about how the FBI agent is Brandon Crammon, the state's second witness. He's showing infrared cam footage from the plane that the state believes could show that Rittenhouse was following and chasing Rosenbaum, not the other way around. Once you see the video, it doesn't pan out that way. But he mentions that at some point during the testimony, they had to call the jury out because they were arguing that there's about a second set of footage the FBI had but lost. And the lawyer, Richards, was like, that Rittenhouse's lawyer, Richards, was like, that's preposterous. And at one point, the FBI agent, the judge balked when the prosecutor Binger told him that regarding the footage from the plane that the federal government is not under our control. And the judge replied, I beg your pardon? I don't get this. This is a criminal prosecution. If there's going to be cloak and dagger stuff, what's going on? It's a quote from the judge. So it's like the FBI waits to the last minute to drop this stuff, and then they don't drop it all. So it's very like, what's going on? If you've got more, give it to us.
I can't damn my new commander-in-chief for mislabeling somebody.
What's that?
Well, no. So during Biden's political campaign, after one of the days of the debate, he put a video out saying we've been fighting all these issues, COVID, whatever, and then white supremacy, and then he flashes a picture of Kyle Rittenhouse on there.
That's right.
And now he's in office. Now he's the president. So now, if this thing goes,
makes sense now.
So now the prosecution is getting a little help from the FBI, but they can't help the defense, obviously.
Yeah, and the FBI is obviously withholding videos saying, "Oh, we don't have control of that stuff. We can't release it." And it's like,
so
we can't. This is a criminal prosecution. Oh my gosh! Subpoena the FBI.
Yeah.
So the theory being that they're withholding evidence that could exonerate Rittenhouse because they want him to go down for this.
Yeah. I mean,
That's
why
weird.
else would the FBI not release this footage unless they were under order?
I don't know. That's a good question. Yeah, they're only giving them some of it.
So, like, if that's the case, we're under executive order, they're told not to release the exculpatory evidence. I believe that's how you say it.
Hidden executive
Wouldn't
order.
it suck? Wouldn't it suck if during the second witness, the part we weren't allowed to see, all of this is just a giant bombshell to like the jury, and they're finding out all this stuff about the criminal, like the dark, the deep state. Like this witness is just telling him everything. Like, yeah, we're not giving you that stuff because it's good for the world order for Rittenhouse to go to prison. And so like now the jury knows everything, but we don't.
They've been red pilled, but then they
and
won't resist
before he gets off the stand, he's like, by the way, we know the names and addresses of everybody in this room, and we will go to their house with men if you tell anybody that this testimony ever happened. And
have you seen the infrared footage?
No.
They showed a clip of it.
It's like an FBI like supercut. There's like a whole bunch of stuff going on. It's really hard to figure out what's going on, but that's how they released it.
It looks like Call of Duty where you're in that AC-130.
Yeah. But the footage itself here, I can see if I'll find it.
Yeah.
To me, it doesn't show what the prosecution's trying to say.
Yeah. This
Can you
is very
imagine if this
interesting.
guy was actually undercover and all this stuff leaked? If this guy was like undercover, I don't know why you would have an undercover agent come forth with this though. It should be just a patsy
I don't know who
or a desk
or
jockey.
what the FBI's witness role was, but I think he might have just been the drone operator. I don't think he was actually like on the ground.
Yeah, most likely it was the person who was recording it and what they saw that day, because there has to be a witness attached to evidence that you submit. Well,
I think I've got it.
okay, cool. Let's see it. So anyway, for people who don't know what we're talking about, some new video was submitted as evidence, and it's something that nobody knew about, how the FBI apparently had a drone flying over the whole event, filming the whole thing. Why and how is a big question, and I guess we don't know, but this does not look like it.
Is it sound on? It gets there.
Okay.
So they've got Rittenhouse circled here. This is approaching the car dealership where everything went down.
It's like a video game where you see your allies in the distance and like their gamer tag names.
They've
over
subtitled it. Rittenhouse is yelling medical. Does anyone need medical?
Further.
Rosenbaum circled up there just ahead. So this is where Rittenhouse is approaching Rosenbaum.
Oh, yeah.
So they're both kind of moving.
Man, they definitely need that trash can to put their garbage out. Oh, they're blocking the road.
Here's the drone footage.
Right by further.
And this is how the FBI put the video together for whatever reason. So I'm not sure if the guy on the right is an informant.
Oh, so a large crowd over here. Smashing the SUVs.
There's Josh Zeminski's, or Josh and whoever the girl's name, Zeminski. Kelly.
It's just the worst.
So here's Rittenhouse running out. It looks like he's chasing Rosenbaum, right? Rosenbaum's moved back. Rittenhouse stops in front of cars. Like they mentioned, I'm pretty sure that car is on fire right there, that white spot. And this is when Rosenbaum starts chasing Rittenhouse. Throws something at him. Here they get chased into it. Kyle turns and shoots him.
Hey!
And they cut it out just before the guy goes cranium that dude.
So, yeah. So you go up there. He's asking for medical. Another thing that the defense mentioned is that someone asked Kyle to go down to that lot and help put out fires because people were attacking that lot.
Mm-hmm.
Kyle didn't go to that lot himself. So there's evidence to say that someone else asked him to do so. So the fact that he was following Zeminski's could be coincidental. Did that video was it on fire before the Zeminskis were there? I wouldn't be surprised at this point if the Zeminskis were the ones who napalmed it.
Yeah, I don't know who napalmed it.
I have no idea.
Um,
So
But yeah.
anyway, that's what they talked about in the second witness that we weren't allowed to see. And
Mhm.
then the third witness was this dude who I guess filmed part of it. And I think we might have just watched some of his footage actually. Like he was just a guy who was there who filmed part of it. And he filmed part of it with them standing around. But the main point that they wanted him on the stand was because the prosecution wanted to use him as a way of showing that the protest was actually not as violent as the defense is trying to tell you it is. And so it's mostly footage of people standing around talking, and he's asking questions like, did you see any fires? No. Did you see anybody fighting? No. Did you see, well, like, who was intimidating you? And he was saying that the people with the guns were the ones that were intimidating us. And he was saying things like they were making us really uncomfortable and they were being, combative. And so the purpose of the prosecution calling that witness up was to brand the protesters as being just they're protesting and that's all they're doing, and that these people with guns are intimidating them and threatening them.
straight out of the New York Times playbook. They even said that. They said that
He
we
was
were
on
just
it. He was on it.
protesting.
The black dude that was on it, the black dude filmmaker, he was actually in the New York Times clip
Video.
that I showed you. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, we were just protesting. Oh, he was the one who hid because he's like, oh man, they're going to use that as an excuse to shoot some black
Yeah.
people.
Yeah, and I'm a black
Yeah.
dude, so I'm
I mean,
in
no,
danger,
I mean,
so I gotta get
if
out of here.
if he's eating whatever they're feeding him, I would be scared for my life too.
Yeah.
And honestly, I have no interaction with the Kenosha PD. Maybe they are a bunch of racist assholes that you should be. This is completely justified. I don't know.
Mhm.
So that's something I cannot comment on. But honestly, soy boys will get little butthurt if someone's open carrying, regardless, because they think just exercising your Second Amendment rights intimidating and threatening, and they would call that self defense if they kicked you upside the head with a skateboard.
Yeah. Yeah, people forget this was in the middle of the Trump riots 2020, where it was just this these two factions who believe that they were saving the world from the other one, fighting in the streets.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, and the Trump riots started around his election year and with the Antifa.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And then the credits rolled, and that was the end of the episode. And it said, "Tomorrow on Rittenhouse trial," and yep. So that was it. So far the pretty uneventful. At least the witnesses have been pretty uneventful.
There's so much there was so much time packed in here. Even the judge apologized to the jury, saying, "Yeah, so, we were supposed to be talking to you about an hour or two ago, but that's what happens when you have 5 lawyers in here."
And you have a boomer judge who rambles.
He didn't admit that himself,
and forgets how to use the technology. He kept like, "Is this how it works? Oh, am I muted now?" Like,
we got to call these people. Who is he calling, by the way? That's what I want to know.
People who bring the jury in, probably.
Oh, is that it?
Probably, yeah, because they have all these discussions when the jury's not there.
Well, I thought he kept saying, "Can you come down?" when he called the jury one time. So it sounded like they brought them away, but maybe they are in their own separate rooms. Be funny they have a padded room or something for these jury members.
It's probably something like that. Yeah.
I mean, I know
or
for certain murder trials they isolated jury members. These days you probably couldn't do that because of COVID.
Well, the judge said I reserve the right to do that if I want to, but I probably won't.
And he also said, please don't read any information. He even mentioned a dictionary. Don't look up in a dictionary because then they can't test it. I'm like, a dictionary is. I mean, I'd scoff at that normally, but then Merriam-Webster redefined language as it was happening. So
that was awesome. We covered that in an episode, dude. How much of the conversations between the jurors when they're not in the trial, just how awkward must that be? Like, because the only thing linking these people together is the trial, and when they're waiting for someone to tell them, okay, it's time to come back. They're all sitting in chairs in like a circle in some room. So, what are you guys doing after the trial? Well, I guess going back to our room, not talking to anybody.
What if someone met their like future spouse? At the
No,
trial?
imagine. I was gonna say that, Nick. Okay, so this is why we're Nicks. I was gonna be like, try to pick some up. Hey, come here often.
Now these days she would just probably call him, like tell the judge that she's being preyed upon or something by one of the other jurors and he needs to be dismissed.
I mean, honestly, if you're trying to pick up somebody
dismissed in my
during at
bedroom.
jury,
Yeah.
yeah, either you're misreading
The
something
jurors.
bad or
Yeah.
And it's the only thing you saw all day, but you're not allowed to talk about with the other people. So the small talk must just be agonizing. Like, ugh,
Mhm.
I can't stand small talk with strangers.
So what'd you think of the pizza lunch?
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, they gave me sun chips. I don't even like those.
What's wrong with you? Get
I'm
him off the
sure
jury. Get him off the jury.
This is obviously a reptile.
It's obviously he doesn't like sun chips.
Sun chips are for girls. Everyone knows that.
No, man.
It's like ordering a fruity drink at the bar. You're not allowed to have sun chips.
Sun chips are great.
Hey, I order fruity
Okay.
drinks on cruises because they
Yeah.
have double the alcohol.
Do they come with
Everything else.
lipstick? Pansies.
Sometimes.
Can I get a Shirley Temple?
If you get the girl bartender to taste it first, yeah.
All right. Are we done? Is that it?
Yeah. So I think
Think
looking
so.
forward, there's kind of two big witness testimonies. There's obviously no bicep gauge, and then there's also McGinnis, the reporter, who's actually seemed on Kyle's side in previous interviews. So I
Oh
think
yeah,
that-
he's from the Daily Caller, right?
I think so.
Yeah. He's from the Daily Caller, which is typical right wing media.
Mhm.
The YouTube, non-mainstream media.
Well, wouldn't he come up
Right.
during the defense when it's their turn? If he's so helpful for the defense, why would the prosecution call him?
One of the charges is endangering McGinnis.
Yeah. So they have to probably. I mean, if they didn't pull him up, then McGinnis, then they don't get the testimony from McGinnis, and that would be huge. Then the defense doesn't even have to call him.
Yeah.
Just be like, yeah, it never happened. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Where's your proof?
He says he wasn't endangered. You take our word for it.
Yeah, his testimony says he was fine.
Yeah, awesome. All right.
Yeah. and Also, who knows what other curveballs the FBI is going to throw at us? Seems like they're playing their typical glowy games.
What do you mean?
And
They're just being feds.
Yeah, why were they watching? I guess
Why wouldn't they
that
watch?
area
It was
Why
a
were
specifically.
they
federal building,
watching?
right?
And why did they withhold the footage for a year?
Well, it's just okay. So imagine all the stuff that they must have had multiple drones because I imagine the unrest covered a lot of like area, right? So why were they drawn to that one area? Was that the only thing that was going on in that whole night, or did they have
Well, around
lots of
this
drones
time,
watching
they
all
were-
over the place? And
So
it was
around
just
this time, remember that the police had already started pushing people
Mhm.
southward. So
Yeah.
it was no longer the federal building was no longer being assaulted. And let's
Oh.
be honest, that's what it was. People are like, oh, it was just fireworks, loud noisemakers. No, those were fucking bottle rockets, which
So
granted me and some
So he
friends
was
shot at each
done.
other once.
so he was
but-
just looking for like naked chicks at that point, probably.
or just following the crowd, the flow of the crowd, because they were all moving in that direction.
This is from Free Kyle USA, pretty much the defense's narrative of the attack. So you can see the cops. Here's the original car source where all his buddies started.
Can you blow that up?
Let me see. That's
Nope.
kind of it won't let me.
All right.
Sorry. Anyways, so here's the original car source where like his buddy started. Here's the police line with police on foot, and then up here's armored vehicles. So Kyle starts here, and this is where he moves towards car source 2, where the shooting happened. So the police have already started pushing everyone this way. So if you're a fed with a drone, you're not looking at the police. You're looking at what's downstream of the police.
Yeah, you're watching your guy, your informant.
Yeah.
Essentially,
Yeah, I wonder if
Yeah, I mean,
Rosenbaum who was the informant? Was it Rosenbaum?
I think it might have been the guy who was taking the
Yeah.
video with the skateboarders that had like everyone circled.
Hmm.
They played it just before the infrared.
Yeah, it was probably that guy. He was probably an informant. That's probably why that footage wasn't really. A clip of it got leaked though, so maybe not. Maybe they just pulled it from that guy. Honestly,
Maybe.
they probably just pulled it from his phone directly and didn't even ask him. It's the FBI, man.
This might be. It might be Rittenhouse was the Fed, and they're rolling him under the bus.
17-year-old alt-right infiltrator. Future. No, he's the knock man. He's the future alt-right infiltrator for the feds.
So they're gonna acquit him, so he can become a hero, and then
No,
he gets
they're gonna nail him with something enough to martyr him, and then he'll be allowed in every alt-right circle from here on out.
No one would ever suspect that.
I think
True.
if he gets off, there's going to be a whole bunch of Kyle shirts with 4 doors more whores on it. That's going to be awesome.
Yes, and probably fleshlights too, since he's getting off.
And then all the people are going to be clutching their pearls. I can't believe they're saying these things. Whores, they're objectifying women. These terrible.
He should go to jail for being a misogynist.
I mean, people are reaching for anything. So let's be honest. If from the context, right, it looks like it's self-defense. The curveball from the FBI, unless he incited violence and knew he would
By yelling medical.
by yelling medical or whatever would altercate whatever took place at the car, I'd be more likely to believe that these Zelenskys were trying to saw him turned and what's his name was trying to take a piss behind the Rosenbaum was maybe trying to take a piss behind the thing. They're like, oh, here's one of the assholes who's armed, and then he turns and chases them. I'd be more likely to believe that. But whatever he said at the point he was running away is no longer sure. He has incurred something, but he is running away. He's no longer a threat.
Mhm.
So
It's just so
he didn't
clearly
have a duty to
self-defense.
retreat, but he
Yeah.
decided to retreat
he
until
did
he
decide
got
to retreat.
cornered by the
Yeah.
5
And they-
cars.
Yeah, well, there were cars, and they even pointed out on the defense that on the other side of those cars was a line of people who were vandalizing.
Mhm.
There was a mob of people vandalizing on the other side. So he was getting cornered.
Yeah.
He was sandwiched between Rosenbaum and those people.
So, how are y'all's predictions? Let's end the episode with that. I mean, obviously, we can't change our prediction because that's not how this works. But how are you feeling about it so far?
I think he's going to get acquitted on all the murder charges for self-defense, and they're going to find a way to nail him for illegal possession. He'll get, he'll pay a fine. You have to go 6 months where you can't own a firearm, and then he's scot-free.
Okay, so you're still feeling good about yours. What about you, Other Nick?
So that was originally mine too.
Okay,
I think originally I said he's off on everything, so I've changed mine.
yeah.
Yeah.
I still, yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
I think they're going to nail him hard for something minor still.
So you're feeling pretty good too about yours.
I think it all comes down to the interpretation of whether he can be affirmatively self-defending.
Yeah.
Mhm. And all they really need is one juror to say no, he's innocent and hang the thing.
True.
Yeah, but it's that usually doesn't happen just because those jury rooms where they're deliberating, it's a very like tense kind of you better go with the crowd to go along
That's
to get
how it was
along kind of thing.
for Chauvin, but I think this one has a little less pressure than Chauvin.
Yeah, I'm still thinking he's getting convicted across the board. I don't know. We'll see. I feel like right now the defense is looking pretty strong. Just because, like you said, the Rosenbaum thing, it's just so hard to see that as any way other than he was attacking him and chasing him.
Unless these charges are one of those weird locals like with Chauvin, where it was that second-degree manslaughter or whatever it was. That's not normally second-degree murder.
Right, third degree, I think it was.
No, they got him for second-degree manslaughter, or but it was basically killing someone you didn't intentionally kill while committing a crime, is what it translated to. And I'm like, I don't know what crime he was committing, but whatever. If these charges aren't that, I see it very difficult that they're actually going to get first degree. They might be swinging for the fences here, but those are going to have to get
that way.
drawn down.
Yeah, it does. It
First
seems
degree
unlikely.
doesn't make sense.
I think self-defense may not the weak point might be McGinnis. They may be able to get him on endangerment of McGinnis, but they won't be able to get him on the murder charges for self-defense reasons because he was being pursued and chased and attacked.
Yeah, they'd have to prove that he instigated.
Well, they
Or at
they
least
don't
enough
have to
for a
prove
jury.
it. They just have to get a jury who wants to see him burn so bad they don't really care. They're just going to give him the max for everything because
So that's why you're so pessimistic. You think the juries are fucked to begin with.
Yeah, basically. That's why I'm still thinking it's going to be murder across the board because I feel like most of the time that's just I'm more often than not I'm very surprised with how harsh the sentence and the conviction is with most people. Like I usually like when it comes up to the verdict in my history of watching these types of things, I'm usually pretty shocked that they got convicted. So this is the one time I'm going to say like I'm actually going to just bet that he gets convicted because it seems to us like he's in good shape. But that's because it's just so obvious to us it was self-defense. Not everybody is looking at it like this.
I mean,
They're
I don't
looking
have
at
much.
it in the New York Times way, where they just anyway. You get my point.
Mhm.
Yeah,
So-
I don't have much faith in humanity either. But remember, Zimmerman, they tried so hard to convict him. back
That
in
was
the
one of
day.
those to me.
They
That was
really
one of
wanted
those.
to get something on him.
That was
but
one
they
of those
couldn't.
exception that proves the rule kind of things, where they really just
Yeah.
had nothing. They didn't have a
Yeah.
good story. They didn't have evidence. They had nothing.
And Chauvin was so unlikable. Like there's almost like no excuse for him to kneel on Derek.
Yeah, the dude was on his phone while kneeling on the back of the guy's neck. That
For like
it
9
doesn't look
minutes.
good.
No.
Opposed to Kyle, who's a young kid who obviously tried his best to get away from the scenario.
Yeah.
Completely different circumstance. Like some people can still find Kyle likable. Very, very few people who unless you're like super diehard back the blue, found Chauvin likable.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Rittenhouse, get that puppy face ready for
So,
tomorrow. You got to
For-
maintain that.
For a jury, the popularity contest is important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll see how things go, and we'll be watching tomorrow. And I guess the next episode we're gonna have a lot to talk about because there's no way we're gonna be meeting tomorrow. But let's try again. Like, what do you guys think? Like a week from now,
Yeah.
we'll just do kind of a weekly wrap.
A week from now when he's convicted innocent. Or acquitted innocent.
Acquitted guiltily.
You think this is gonna be? You think this is gonna be
Acquitted
wrapped up
guiltily.
in a week? You think it's gonna be wrapped up in a week?
Yeah, they said
I don't
2
know.
weeks.
It was a fast jury selection. Maybe it'll be a fast. No,
It's a lot of
not with this
variables.
judge talking. No.
The
I
judge
give it a
said 2
month.
weeks.
All right, that's good. We can have a couple more before the end, and then we'll have to actually do a real show.
Back
right.
to current events.
All right, cool. Well, I'm gonna end it there. So see you
Peace,
guys
everyone.
later. In broadcast.